zone. Pass caught. Touchdown, Gunner.
Welcome to Black Angus Reviews. Today I'll be giving my first reaction / review to the film 1917. First off, 1917 is an instant classic war film. It's comparable to that of Saving Private Ryan, really getting the audience on the ground in the moment with the soldier experiencing combat. This was unique in the sense of how often do you ever see a World War I film? We're more than 100 years removed from that war. The camera work, I can't say enough about it. It felt like, if not one continuous shot, at least 2 or 3 total. There's a few points where I could tell this is CGI, so there's probably an edit there. But overall, it was astounding. A few times when they go sideways with the character, it felt like a video game. That would be my only complaint with the camera work. But if your jaw isn't dropped at when you pay attention to like how this film just keeps going with very little pause, it's amazing. It actually starts out, it really captures what World War I must have been like for these soldiers. It starts out with the 2 main characters just lying among daisies or some sort of flowers by a tree, and then once the plot starts moving them, you start coming out of that and you start seeing more soldiers and you start seeing equipment and tents, and then you go into the trench and you start seeing how just ripped apart the world is, and eventually they turn the camera the other way, following the characters, and you see what war ravaged on the land. And on top of that, it's really cool seeing in the trenches with these characters what soldiers that defended the freedoms of the West went through. From a young man's perspective, you focus on their feet. Made me think about trench foot, especially. You see dead horses that are decomposing and bloated. You see dead soldiers that are partially or almost completely covered and rotting. Rats eating their flesh because it's too dangerous for them to even try to recover them. You see injuries in this film. This is the first war where people survived ridiculous types of injuries because of the advances of medicine. There's a real reverence, I would say, to this forgotten war of World War I. A lot of people know that there was a World War I because World War II, the iconic war with the Nazis and the totalitarian Japanese, there's that number 2. So you know there was a previous one, but no one remembers it. No one talks about it. So this is really cool that someone put all this work to really capture and feel like this genuine involvement being dropped into this universe 100 years ago. And another thing I really love was that there was no politics or demonization of the enemy. Of course, you're watching this, and unless maybe your family has a history of being in the war for Germany, I don't think there's any demonization to the Germans that they're fighting. You definitely rooted for the guys, but it didn't feel like rah rah, we're the right side. It just felt like we're on this side experiencing what they experienced. Another thing that was interesting was a couple of surprise cameos. I knew Colin Firth and Benedict Cumberbatch were in this film. I didn't know how much they would be. It's a little disappointed they weren't in it a lot, but their roles were very impactful. A couple surprise cameos. Spoiler warning. Mark Strong from Shazam and Kingsman. He plays a high-ranking officer who interacts with one of our main characters, and clearly has a history of his own that is conveyed through very little speech. And Richard Madden, known most notably as Robb Stark, has another impactful scene in this film. I won't spoil who he is or his role, but just like him and Robb Stark, when his father was found out to be dead, I bought him for the little time he was on screen. It was beautiful. Overall, it took a while compared to Saving Private Ryan, because I paid attention to that. The first 30 minutes or so, you really start investing in the characters of Saving Private Ryan. And it took a while for this film to have a moment, but that's because of the nature of the film, I would say. But you finally get a period to really invest and feel with them beyond just the plight of a young man being a soldier in this awful type of warfare, with pretty much charging back and forth like Civil War style, but with trenches and advanced technology for its time. In closing, I got two thoughts. First, as a veteran of war, I just can't say enough for how they capture this, and really, it makes all the wars since then, besides maybe World War II, really pale in comparison to just what you would have had to go through just to pass basic and then get in the trenches and sustain a career for more than a few months in this type of warfare. My hat's off to those veterans especially. And really, this felt like a Black Ops mission or something. This felt like Special Forces type of story before there was Special Forces. Lastly, I'm curious myself, and for all of you viewing in the audience, do you think there will be a sequel? Do you think we'll get a 1918 story, maybe the same character in the final year of war? Or do you think perhaps we'll get a perspective from a German troop, or maybe, get out of this realm of Europe and go the Ottomans, see what they might have experienced, or the people that combated them, just, a different setting. But I really like the idea of either in the next year, the same character, or the other side of the coin, much like Flags of Our Fathers in Letters from Iwo Jima, what Clint Eastwood did, really showing the humanity on both sides of the war. But yeah, leave me a comment below if you've seen it. What'd you think? What was the best part? How'd you like the camera work? Do you want to see more World War I films after seeing this? Let me know. See you around. And sorry for my voice, I'm recovering from a little sickness.